What's up, podcast? Before we start today's episode, I just want to make sure that you guys are following and subscribing all of our content at svaofamerica.com/assistance HQ. There you can find all of the latest and greatest content, podcasts, articles, and so much more. The link's going to be in the description, so make sure you don't ever miss a piece of content. It's a whole lot of assistance going on. And now, a moment from our sponsor.
What's going on, Ramblers? How are you guys doing today? It's May 10th, Sunday, personal day, half personal day, actually, more or less. Uh, Today was a wonderful day. Got a lot done. Had a wonderful Zoom meeting I will be telling you guys about later. Just a lot of things are going to be happening this week, and I'm just excited for the progress to be made. We talk about making small steps of progress every week, but at some point, small steps equate to big steps. So, whatever small steps this week, I have a feeling that there's going to be a big step. Now, I can't predict what happens this week. However, I can just go hard and do what I have to do in order to produce whatever results I would like. So, the goal, I don't know. The goal is to just make a lot of progress, substantial. I don't know. I just feel good about it. I feel good about this week, guys. So, I wanted to do something a little bit different. But before I got into that, let me tell you about the podcast that we had earlier. So it was like an hour and 20-minute session. We interviewed each other. I interviewed him. He interviewed me. And I met this guy via LinkedIn. So it was just me connecting because I was feeling like my connections were starting to get dry. I wasn't having any new people. And I was like, you know what? Because we're not going to networking meetings and all of these other things, I just said, you know what? I'm going to start going back to adding random people that are just close to my circle, close to what I do, and really more or less, how do I put it? Up my alley, because anyone that can be, I feel like I'd have a connection with, or anyone that I feel like, hey, I feel like at some point you might bring value, or I just would like for you to see my content. If these people just happen to see my content and say, hey, I see his content and I know he's a virtual assistant. When they see virtual assistant and they think of me, that could be, something possible right there. So you always have to think about the foresight in the future and everything. So I'm really looking forward to it. I have to get on the newsletter. I know, guys, I've been slacking 2 weeks in a row. I have not done a newsletter. However, this week, next Monday, there will be coming out a newsletter because I'll be working on the newsletter this week, obviously. I have some LinkedIn ads I'm running. I've been working on a lot of content, like a lot of pictures, videos. So I've been doing daily makeups of those and everything. So I'm really excited to show you guys what I've been working on. Obviously, my social media will see it. However, some of them will be used for ads, and it doesn't really matter. I'm going back to going up on my posting, but I'm going to be adding some tweaks and everything from my social media manager. So I'm going to scale back on a lot of content, but because I'm going to start contextualizing it more. So the content's maybe going to go from as much as I can in a day to like a set five. And in those set five, I will have, a set message for the four for that day. And then one of them will be like, hey, subscribe to what we like, subscribe to us or something, or check out the podcast. Um, just really honing in on each platform's audience and how I can bring them the most value, because that's what I'm really looking to do on my social media journeys, is just bring the most value and what's the most engaging. I was in a networking meeting with not I wouldn't say, I like to say good friend of mine, but just an acquaintance, someone I in the business world I know, named Trip. Real name, black people. I do. Trip is not. He's not a Trip. His name is Trip. Trip Sanders. Good guy. So actually, I was on a networking meeting with him last week because he runs networking events virtually now too, and I was on the call pretty early, you could say, and we were just talking about content and LinkedIn and everything, and they were like, "Yeah, we like your content on everything on LinkedIn. We see you posting." And so I'm like, "Oh, cool! It's really great to be recognized as like you guys are seeing my content." Like I didn't even I forgot I had you guys on LinkedIn, honestly. However, the issue is there's no engagement. There's no engagement, and it's like a blow by because LinkedIn's not saying I'm getting the post. I'm not getting what I'm saying. I'm getting 1 and 2 and 3 posts. Now, if you're one of those 1, 2, or 3 people, then by all means, thank you so much. But I mean, either LinkedIn's lying or you're lying or something's going on, and I need some engagement to prove it. I need the engage, comment, like, share, all of that stuff. So I've been really working on my end of that, which is producing the most valuable contextualized content that I can for you guys, so that you're more likely to engage with it. Because I'm not going to be that person who says, yeah, just engage with it. No, I'm trying to give you guys what you like. Let me know what you like. If you don't give me the feedback, I can't tell you what you guys like. And I'm really looking forward to calling all my clients. So everyone that I've worked with, everyone that I've basically almost have had a meeting with, I'm looking forward to calling at some point this week to just check up on them, see how they're doing, because this is not the time to be selling. This is the time to be branding and getting into place and just focusing on letting people know you're there, not the time to be selling. However, I can't go deep into that because that goes into the podcast that I recorded earlier that you guys are going to be hearing sometime soon. And I don't want to give you guys the exact details now because it's so, oh my gosh, that is the best podcast, the best co-host I have had to date. I know I say that about dang near every person, but the show is about progress. Think of this. If we are about progress, every single co-host has to be better than the last, which means every time I have a co-host, that episode is going to be the one that blows your socks off. And I'm trying to have as many blow your socks off episodes as I can. So I'm going to be doing a lot of promotion around that. So I have 2 big ones coming up, guys. Actually, that other one's a 2-part special. So that's imagine that, a 2-part special podcast, guys. We are 17 episodes in, 18. This is the 18th episode, guys. Just to let you know, this is the 18th episode. So we are really starting to make some headway, and already we have a doubleheader plan lined up for a 2-part episode. I'm sure this one could be a 2-part episode depending on how long this goes. So not this particular podcast, obviously. This is just a regular Monday rundown, guys. Nothing crazy. I don't know. Like I said, I wanted to do something different. And we were talking about branding, and this is the time to be branding and not selling and everything. But what I really wanted to do differently was do a little segment and call it just "What's the difference?" Because as a virtual assistant, I'm always trying to bring value in different ways. But I also have to bring value as an entrepreneur. I can bring, hey, you can download these apps, check out this technology, these tips for improving workflow. But what about the entrepreneurs who want to be entrepreneurs? So hey, I'm just new at this. What are some things that I should know about being an entrepreneur or being a business owner or anything of that nature? So this particular segment I'm calling is "What's the difference?" Because these can get you tied up, not only with the government, with yourself, with your predicted earnings, with the bank. These things can really set you apart in understanding the differences between these terms. So, the very first thing we have is branding versus marketing. What's the difference between branding versus marketing? Branding is what your customers feel, what your customer experience is, what your customer service is like, and what people see or think of when they see and think of your company. The thought process behind that. Marketing is how you're going to put your brand in front of whatever audience you feel like fits your brand. That's what the difference is. Branding is the self-image of your company, and marketing is the distribution of that message that your brand is portraying to the audience that you're trying to reach it to. So I'll put it into an example. You're Coca-Cola. No, McDonald's. McDonald's is even easier. McDonald's. You run McDonald's. The brand of McDonald's this is America's burger. This is if you think of America, you think of McDonald's. And that's kind of true. If you think of what's something that you think of America? McDonald's. Pretty accurate. So if that's your brand, how are you getting that message of this is America's burger out there? You're everywhere. You can't like even in places without a Walmart, the closest thing might be a McDonald's. That's the brand. Because where? You're everywhere in America. We sell burgers everywhere. You can't go somewhere and not get a burger from us because we are America's burger. You can't go anywhere in America and not get a burger from us. Now, that's a very expensive strategy, but it's a strategy nonetheless. And a strategy that took not only proper marketing of at a low level, hey, Minneapolis, hey, Seattle, hey, New Haven, hey, Los Angeles, hey, New York. We are the go-to spot when you need a quick burger. When you want something quick, come here. You can bring a family. It's very quick. You can eat out, especially in the places that it's warm. Hey, come on down. Quick stop, grab it, eat, bounce. It's fast. You're not waiting. You might wait in line because there's so many people, but you don't mind because you're getting your food like that. Now that people are like, hey, and on top of that, back then, fast fast food was new. It was like a new kind of thing. So when that process came of, hey, this food is coming out in 60 seconds or less, they're like, yo, what the flip? This dude is making burgers at twice the rate. I mean, they not necessarily as good as ours, but like, yo, look at the line. Because it's halfway decent. And it's like a quarter, a nickel, whatever the McDonald's burger costed when I first started versus probably maybe double what the actual burgers were going for in that area. So it's fast. It was the brand. It was the aesthetic of it. Oh snap, this is new. We're joining the wave of what's new. That's what the brand was. Now, how did they get that message out there? You don't get McDonald's everywhere. They honed in on making this feeling like a home spot. So when you feel here, this is home. I feel like this is what America is. I'm American. I'm feeling it. That's the difference. The marketing is how they got the message and the brand out there. The brand is what the customer felt and thought of when they seen that message. That's the difference between brand and marketing. What's the difference between being rich and wealthy? Oh, I like this one. The difference between being rich and wealthy. Rich is you make a lot of money. Wealth is you can go a while without making any money. Listen, rich is you make $900,000 a year. If you make $900,000 a year, you're rich. You are in the top 1% because you make over 428,000, especially if you're single. And it's only like 450 something thousand if you're, but anyway, if you make over $500,000, period, you are in the top 1%. If you're in the top 1%, that makes you pretty rich. You make $500,000. However, you have a house that costs you, let's say you're being real bougie, $250,000 a year, right? You can do that, right? Now you only have $250,000. I'm sorry, you have 900,000. We said. So if you have a $250,000 house, that drops you down to, oh, let's break out the calculator, guys. It's like 600 something thousand. That yeah, 250, yeah, 650. But let's break the calculator out just so people don't get mad. So we had 900,000, right? So let's subtract the 250. You had 650. $650,000 left in a year, right? That's cool. That's fine. However, you and your wife will love to travel and go on vacation because you can work from a mobile office. Let's just say your vacations cost you $150,000 a year. I seen literally. I watch Architectural Digest, so sometimes like the little YouTube roll things pop up. There are hotel nights for $75,000 a night. So let's just say $150,000 for a year worth of vacations. Condos, villas, all that other stuff. Extravagant trips. That leaves you with $500,000. Now, this is without even paying taxes. Before that, we didn't even count paying taxes. Whoo! So you bought like this 500 is already way lower than what it should have been. Anyway, you get the point. It starts dropping. You and your wife start going on shopping sprees. That's just another $150,000. You guys have expensive taste and everything. another 150 on cars, because 150 is a pretty good number. You can spend 150 of anything. People have 150 of closets. If you have a walk-in closet that's super grand, and that closet is full, and you're living a lavish lifestyle, and one shirt can cost you $1,000, I'm sure in a year you can spend $150,000 on a pool of clothing, especially if you're a family. The whole point to say is, if you're spending $900,000 of your $900,000, you are living paycheck to paycheck, which means, yes, you can at $900,000 be one paycheck away from being broke or homeless. It's sad, but it's the truth, because it's about money management. It's not what you make, it's what you do with what you make. Because if you live on 30% of your money, that means if you were to go broke and you were to stay saving, not even investing, you were living on 30% of whatever you made, and then you save the other 60. Let's even say 50-50. You were saving half, spending half. The good old regular save half, spend half, right? So live on half your money and then put up the other rest. If you made $50,000 a year for 5 years, let's do that. Calculator. $50,000 a year for 5 years. That's $250,000. You saved half of that. You could live for another 5 years before you went out. You have 5 years of living with no money. So if you made $50,000 a year, lived on 25, put up 25, in 5 years, you would have the 25,000 times the 5, which is 125,000, exactly what you saved, and you could live for 5 years. Imagine how much time it would take, like you could take for 5 years, only because you're only living on 50% of your income. Now make that at a higher level. If you made 100,000 at any level, that rule still applies. So that's the difference between being wealthy and being rich. It's not what you make, it's what you do with what you make. Moving on. I like this. I like this. This is a hot session. This is a hot set. Difference between gross and profit. This is a pretty simple one. Gross is what you make before you pay your expenses and before you pay taxes. Profit is what you make after all your money is deducted. Example time. Okay, so you have a company A. They make $100,000 a year because they sell a product for $1, and they sell 100,000 of those products every year. Therefore, they make $100,000 a year. That is gross money. That is gross. Now, after they make $100,000 of that revenue, however, they have paid $25,000 in payroll, $15,000 in, regular expenses and stuff for the building and of such, and then another maybe $10,000 in expenses for whatever liaisons or outsourcing stuff, whatever. Anyway, let's just call their total $50,000. After you subtract the $50,000 from the $100,000, they're left with $50,000. That is their profit. That is their profit. I'm going to take it one deeper for you guys, actually. Now, after you have your gross, your 100,000, your expenses of 50, leaving you with $50,000, you then have something where if you leave it in the business, it's called retained earnings, meaning you did not take it out, because here's the truth. That is your business. So if your business makes $50,000 and after you pay everybody and do all of your stuff, you are left with $50,000, that is your money. Now, if it stays in the business, it's the business's money. However, you have the right to it. You might say take $10,000, right? That's your personal money. In the business, it's going to say retained earnings. So your earnings is your profit. So retained profit. How much money, how much profit did we keep before the guy took everything? We kept 40,000 out of 50. That's cool. We kept, say, 30,000 of the 50,000 because the owner took 20. That's cool. That's how business owners make money. So they have the revenue, the expenses, profit. The owner gets paid. Usually he gets paid first. Obviously, his payroll comes first usually. So perfect. Now, moving on. What is the difference between a deductible and a credit? A deductible, now we're taking it to taxes, just to let you guys know, we're taking it to the section of taxes. A deductible versus a credit. A credit, we'll start with because it's very easy. A credit is actual cash back onto your tax return. The easiest one to understand is the child tax credit. For every child that you have, you get $2,000. So if, say, your tax return was nothing, and then you have a kid, you get $2,000. Say you have 2 kids, that's 4. But say you had a kid that didn't qualify, he was like 17 and he made under a certain amount and he's in school and everything, but he's like 18, not 7, he's 18. Now you can get $500 credit, not the 2,000, because it's not a full kind of dependent. He can kind of take care of his own, right? So that is a credit. It's like the actual cash value of whatever that credit is going onto your tax return. A deductible is taking your adjusted gross income and lowering it. So what your adjusted gross income is when you look at your tax return, you have whatever you made minus all of these boxes. And we're not going to get into those boxes. However, there's a bunch of these boxes that are minusing. If you have a deductible, this is all going to only count if you file in the itemized deductions, because your itemized deductions have to equal more than your standardized. Again, not going to get into all of that. However, a deductible is just saying, hey, we have enough items that are tax deductions that we can take that would outweigh our regular standard deduction, which is $12,500 as a single person. So if you had $15,000 in the deductions, so as a business, you might, have went out to lunch, went on some conference calls, you might have got some new office equipment, got a company car, bunch of tax deductible things that went to an equivalent of $15,000. So instead of saying on paper for the taxes that you made $100,000 that year in the company really made, let's just say, the minus the 15,000 taxable income because of these tax deductions, the company really only made 85,000 because it's minus the 15. So that means you're not taxed for making 100,000 because you have these tax deductions. You're taxed for only making 85,000. So what companies do is they try to get as many tax deductions as they can and tax credits, because that one adds cash value onto their taxes in terms of credit. And the deductions is really where it's at, because as a company, you're doing a whole lot of money in vacations. We're not going to call it vacations, business trips, gas, catering events for, clients, marketing, cars, equipment, regular office expenses, payroll, things of that. Things, deductible items. Even certain like vehicles, not cars, but certain vehicles can be deducted. For example, you might buy a boat and put your company logo on it and call it marketing. You can do that, tax deduction. So everything totals up, so it really makes it look like your company made less money than what it did. That's the difference between your tax deduction and a tax credit. What do we have next? The difference between hard work and smart work. How do I put this? Hard work is going hard. We all go hard, right? Now, people like to, at least in my opinion, people confuse going hard and going smart and thinking that if you're going smart, you don't have to go hard. No. Going hard just means you're just going hard. That's it. You are going 100%, whether it be good, bad, right, wrong, whatever. Working smart is finding the most efficient way possible and then going hard on that. I'm going to give you an example. Take 2 people, right? One guy, he goes to the lake to get the water and then goes back. He works hard, right? He works every day to bring 5 gallons of water so that his family can have some water to drink and a little bit of water in storage, right? Water to drink, little bit of water in storage. Now, he works hard. That's fine. However, it's a big family. They can only store but so much water because of space and because it's a lot of people drinking water. You have to go back and forth. So the amount of water that you're consuming for all the uses of it versus what you're actually bringing, you're not saving that much water. However, this other dude, person B, he also goes down to the lake to get water. He only brings what he needs for his family for that day. Nothing more, nothing less. However, every day he digs a small little trench, making like a pipeline kind of thing. Digs a small trench in the dirt at night. Goes at night, digs up a small trench of dirt. So he goes, brings his water family for the day, just that day alone, and then after that, or at night, starts to dig a small trench. Right, is digging a small trench. Continues, the trench is done. Meanwhile, the other guy, he has now, let's just say, one person moved out the house. He can now store a little bit more water, not much. People are still consuming that amount of water. This guy has laid down the pipe now, leading from the lake. A storm hits. Boom! Storm hits. Person A has whatever water they have stored up. Person B has a pipe running from the lake to the house. Now, the storm stops them. They can't leave the house or anything. House A can only last as long as whatever the water is they have. Let's just call it 2 weeks worth of water, right? The other people, house B, from the other person B, they have the water from the lake that runs along. Now, person A, would you say he was a hard worker? Yes. Not necessarily, we wouldn't call him person B smart, but we could say, even say he may have been a smart person. However, in this particular situation, was he smart? All he did was bring water every day and a little bit for extra. Trying to think ahead. Now, is it fair that the person B will continue to have water even after person A runs out? Would you consider that a fair situation? Both people worked equally as hard. Person A bought water as much as he could for enough for his family for then, and then a little bit more to go out. Person B, they brought water and then built a trench to make sure that they could tunnel just a little bit of water. Is it fair that person B is going to last longer in that situation than person A? No. There's no right, wrong, fair, or not fair in that. They both worked hard. However, person B worked hard and smart. He said, you know what? I don't want to have to keep going back and forth. We can build a little canal to make sure that the water goes from the lake to the house. Same work ethic, but applied differently. I'm really loving this section. Don't forget, guys, quick thing. If you are listening and you're liking the content, or you want to just give your 2 cents or your advice, or if you disagree with something, or you'd like to pitch in, or I made a mistake, because listen, sometimes I move so fast I could have made a mistake. So if you feel like checking me or just doing anything and you want to participate in the conversation, go online, Twitter, whatever social media you use, hashtag Let's Ramble. That's us. Hashtag Let's Ramble. All right, getting back to what we have. I like this, by the way, I like this section. What's the difference? I do like this section. Go, if you like the section of, or the segment of what's the difference that we're doing right here, let me know, hashtag Let's Ramble, and say, yo, if you like this section of what's the difference, if you were listening, if you learned what you learned, let me know. All right. So the difference between net worth and income. This is a big one because this is where a lot of people can get messed up at. This is where the numbers don't lie, they mislead. Because they're not lying per se. However, they're not giving you the full story, or they're skewing it and only giving you the information that's pertainable to making them look good. So this is the difference between net worth and how much money you make in a year and how they can be correlated. Let's take let me get my calculator out. Company A, right? Company A is owned by person A. Whatever the company is worth, person A is worth. That is your net worth, right? So if the company is worth $1 million, the person who owns the company, if it's 100%, they own or essentially are worth $100 million. Now, how much money do they make? Because the company is worth $100 million, that let's just say that's because that's how much money they generate. The company generates $100 million, right? So the guy's worth $100 million. I don't know what I said before, if that's the same thing. Let's just keep it at a million, whatever, for even small numbers. The company makes $1 million, right? After taxes and everything else, the company is left with $400,000. Of that $400,000, let's say he is the sole owner, just to make it easy. So he's going to keep the $400,000. However, money, as we talked about, has to be retained into the business for it to continue to thrive. So he only takes, of that 400, let's just say 175. So in reality, the company is worth $1 million. However, after the entire situation trickle down effect, he only makes $175,000. That is the difference between your net worth and your income. Your income is how much money you make. Your net worth is a total of all of your assets minus your liabilities. So let's just add now the liability part. Say this dude owned a car that costed $50,000. He had $50,000 left on it, right? So he's worth the $1 million minus the $50,000 from the car. So he would be worth $950,000. $950,000 is what he would be worth in that situation with the car. Without the car, he's worth $1 million. So you have to really understand these terms when you're getting into business, because these are basic and they're tossed around like crazy. So you can kind of get muddled or jumbled up if you don't, and you're a new entrepreneur and you don't understand, these particular small nuances between things. You might be like, hey, if I see that he's worth $100 million, that means he makes $100 million. No, that's not what that means. He might be worth $100 million and not make that much money at all. Prime example, I was thinking of this. Okay, say you have somebody that started a business. Me, I started this business. We're going to say this company is valued at a whopping $0, right? Right now, my company is valued at squat, zero, nada. I go on Shark Tank. I say, yo, listen, I think I can do X, Y, and Z with $50,000. 100 to make it even. I can make a lot of money and grow this company with $100,000. Do you believe in me to do this? Damon John gets up and says, yeah, I trust that you can do this. I will give you $100,000 for 10% of your company. I say deal. That means he gave me $100,000, my company, $100,000, partner in, and he only owns 10%. Now, let's do the math on that. So if he gave me $100,000 for 10%, right? That means I can now say my company is worth $100,000 for every 10%. So because Damon John offered me $100,000 for my company with only 10% stake, we're going to now say that my company that was once worth $0 is now worth $100,000 for every 10%. So for 100% of the company times 10 would be $1 million. So the company bank account says $100,000. Now, We have to go through everything. I might have put $15,000 in my bank account. So my bank account says $15,000. The company bank account says $85,000. However, because Damon put in $100,000 for 10%, that makes us worth $1 million. So even though you only have $15,000 in your bank account, $85,000 in your business bank account, because Damon John gave you $100,000 for only 10% of your company, that effectively makes you worth $1 million. Kind of wonky, isn't it? Right? So that's why you guys have to know the difference. Because if you go in there and say, like, yeah, just make sure it makes like 100, if you said that Jeff Bezos makes 100 and something $million a year, they'd be like, oh, what? He's the richest dude in the world by net worth, but I mean, he don't make that much money. So next, what do we have? Last, the difference between a virtual assistant and a specialized virtual assistant. Easy. As a specialized virtual, I just say virtual assistant, and then when people start talking, I'll bring up that I do have a specialty in a niche. However, the difference between a virtual assistant and a specialized virtual assistant is just that. Specialized virtual assistants have a niche. They go deep and dark and dive into something. So regular virtual assistants do regular virtual assistant stuff, meaning they only do the small admin work, the emailing, calling, maybe a little bit of marketing, like posting, maybe not even that, just returning calls, setting up schedules, and regular basic admin work. When you have a specialty, that means you go specialize in a field. You might specialize in consulting. You might specialize in doing food research or something like that. You might specialize like me. I specialize in bookkeeping and the accounting work. You might find someone that specializes in real estate. I do specialize in residential real estate and small business consulting. So that's my specialty. Someone else's specialty might be, sports management. They're great at being the assistant for sports managers and people of that nature because they love sports and they're great at being the assistant for that. You might have someone that's great at being a lawyer's assistant. You might have someone that's great at being a coder's assistant. They can know code in JavaScript, and whenever someone needs help, they have access to their computer, so they can just go in and do some coding. So there's a lot of different things that can be said for it. So that's the difference between being a virtual assistant, general, and specialized virtual assistant, which is having your niche or specializing in something. So, yeah. I really am enjoying this segment. Like I said, if you're enjoying this segment or you have something to say and you want to add your 2 cents, whichever it may be, use the hashtag Let's Ramble. You can find us across all of the social media at Assistance HQ. And never forget, guys, never forget. It's a whole lot of assistance going on. So don't forget to follow us, subscribe, check us out at svaofamerica.com/The Ramblings, all lowercase. Don't forget that. I made that mistake. All links in the description. So till tomorrow.
Hey Ramblers, before you go, make sure you're following us on social media at Assistance HQ across the board for all content and exclusives. And for an even more personal touch, subscribe to our weekly newsletter with the link in the description.